Member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Madam Speaker, after 8 years, the Socialist Coalition's House of Climate Cards is collapsing. Courts have ruled much of this radical government's authoritarian agenda unconstitutional. It's been alarming to watch as this gang of socialists purge the small L Liberals from the dead-named Liberal Party, where the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that mass murderers don't deserve a single life sentence. I despaired that even our justice system had surrendered to radical woke ideology. Yet somehow, even this far-left government found the limits of what Canadian courts would accept. In just a few weeks, we've seen the Prime Minister admit his carbon tax is making life unaffordable for Canadians. The courts have struck down the Liberal law that claimed the federal government could impose its impact assessment on your kid's lemonade stand. Now the courts have found the Liberals acted unconstitutionally when they declared plastics were toxic. What did this Prime Minister think would happen when he put a man who vandalizes the homes of premiers in cabinet? The Roman emperors famously hired the Vandals to provide security to the empire, only to have the eternal capital of Rome sacked. Our own self-styled Caesar thought he could bring the radical climate activists into his liberal empire, only to have them lay siege to our Constitution. Now, this self-confessed socialist and unrepentant vandal has promised Canadians he would resign rather than see any other Canadians get a break on their heating bills. Tomorrow, senators will have a choice. They can choose to cut the carbon tax on farmers who feed us, or they can reveal themselves as champagne-sipping socialists who sneer at hard-working Canadians. If they vote to lower food prices, the Minister for Climate Radicalism will have to make a choice. Is he still the same hardcore radical activist who was willing to repeatedly break the law in support of his principles, or has he become the prototypical arrogant liberal who thinks he's indispensable? Only time and tomorrow's vote will tell. While we don't know whether the radical principled activist or the arrogant liberal minister will show up tomorrow, we do know this Prime Minister is getting increasingly desperate. And a desperate liberal is a dangerous liberal. This Prime Minister would tear the country apart if he thought it would keep him in power. He's already dispatched his foot soldiers armed with worn-out cliches. We saw this approach from the parliamentary secretary during my last adjournment debate. The member from Milton claimed my videos were taken down from YouTube because of his conspiracy theories. Madam Speaker, any Canadian can still find all my videos on YouTube, and I would encourage them to Google it, but that won't be an option in Canada much longer. Only arrogant liberals can accuse their opponents of holding nefarious hidden agendas while claiming we push conspiracy theories with a straight face. Hidden agenda is a liberal dog whistle for progressive conspiracies. I've always been clear with Canadians, there are no secret agendas or shadowy cabals when it comes to these liberals. They're not hiding anything. The radical environment minister doesn't hide his plans with the communists to control China. He posts them online and promotes it in the press. The minister isn't hiding his socialism. He admits it openly and proudly. Socialists have been appropriating climate change to decolonize capitalism. This Prime Minister's radical socialist agenda is not worth the cost.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I won't for a second apologize for stating the facts and the truth in this House of Commons, which are fully ratified by Canadian media sources. I have them all in front of me here. You don't have to go very far to find the conspiracy theories that this member has been peddling for over 2 decades in this House of Commons, Madam Speaker. I have one here where she did backflips to attempt to apologize for an anti-gay remark that she made in this House of Commons. At another time, the MP compared abortion to an Iraq beheading, Madam Speaker. The list goes on when the member peddled deranged conspiracy theories by the Liberals. I'll read from this article. When that Conservative MP was promoting the deranged conspiracy theories akin to those promulgated by supporters of U.S. President Donald Trump in the video, the member said that Liberals have become radicals who want all illicit drugs to be legal and to normalize sexual activity with children, Madam Speaker. This is not something that I'm making up. This is in, as the member would describe it, the mainstream media, which, as she said, is I guess her enemy. But in fact, our media is so important to the discourse of the Canadian dialogue and making sure that Canadians have access to good information. When she's compared us to cultural Marxists that have taken over every university administration, we're trying to silence free speech on campuses, couldn't be more farther from the truth, Madam Speaker. She also said that it's been this great reset, which is she's propagated false narratives and conspiracy theories and misinformation on her much beloved YouTube channel about the elites trying to pursue a great reset through a Green New Deal. This Green New Deal has become a code for conspiracy theorists who see it as a plot by some global elite group to replace capitalism with a new socialist world order. Madam Speaker, for 2 decades that member has been, going to the lowest common denominator possible to try to earn support from fringe people in our country, Madam Speaker, does a disservice to the discourse of this House. And I will not apologize for a second for pointing it out when it's been derogatory, homophobic, and completely, frankly, unbecoming of anybody who pursues this place as a place for democracy and collaboration. But to the question, Madam Speaker, low and middle income households in Canada are struggling financially right now, and we are here to support them as we have been since we got elected. The poverty rate in Canada was upwards of 15% in this country in 2015. Canadians were struggling like they had never seen before with rising inequality and stagnant growth under 10 years of Stephen Harper. And since then, we have been there every step of the way through programs like an enhanced old age security and the Canada Child Benefit, by bringing programs forward like childcare and dental for low and middle income Canadians, Madam Speaker. We do believe in meeting the moment and making sure that low and middle income Canadians have the services and the supports that they need in order to succeed. And recently, we've announced new funding to help Canadians move away from home heating oil. And I know many of my colleagues' neighbors in Renfrew still use home heating oil. It continues to be the most expensive, the dirtiest, the most emissions-intensive way to heat a family's home. And we want to help them get a free heat pump. We want to support them to get a heat pump so they can heat their homes with electricity. In Ontario, our grid is almost 85% clean. That means mostly renewable energies, whether that's hydroelectric, nuclear, wind, and solar, are providing our grid with that energy. And I know that the neighbours in Renfrew are grateful for that program.
The Honourable Member for Renfrew, Nipissing Pembroke.
Madam Speaker, only a Liberal could claim that he's reducing carbon dioxide emissions while emitting carbon dioxide with every word he spoke. I pity the poor parliamentary secretary forced to stand there and claim that black is white, that plastics are toxic, that the air we exhale from our lungs is pollution. We know emissions have gone up under this NDP Liberal government. They know it too. They know Canadians in rural and remote communities have no alternatives to reduce carbon emissions. While some Canadians are privileged enough to be able to afford to sit on a 2-year wait list for an electric vehicle, if rural Canadians can't drive, they don't work. If they can't purchase a car because of a Soviet-style sales quota, they have no way of getting to the doctor's office. The price of climate socialism is unaffordable, and this Prime Minister is not worth the cost.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This Trump-style Republican brand of politics that this member is bringing to this House is unwelcome by members from almost all parties. It's a shame that there are still remnants of the Canadian Alliance Party in this House. There is absolutely no space in this House for this kind of overblown conspiracy theory. Soviet-style, I'm sorry, that's the 3rd time in as many weeks that I've heard a member from the Conservative Party refer to programs which are there to support our neighbors as Soviet style. Madam Speaker, my mother escaped Soviet Hungary to come to this country to find freedom, and now she builds non-profit community housing co-ops for Canadians, and she's been working in that sector for 30 years. And the number of times the Conservatives have used the term Soviet to describe anything in terms of social welfare and making sure lower and middle income families have what they need is absolutely repulsive.